Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a brand new episode of the Square Circle Podcast. I am your host, Marie Shadows, and we are continuing to talk about Wrestle Kingdom 20. And the last two matches I need to talk about is that weird tag team of a Royal Rumble, whatever the hell thing for the tag team titles was in the beginning, that Ranbo that they love to do, which is essentially a pre-show. And then I want to talk about the women's match. But when I get to the women's match, just be prepared for an incoming rant, because again, my whole issue with Wrestle Kingdom 20 was just commentary. Everything else, the matches were okay, depending on if I wanted one person to win or the other person to lose. It felt like New Japan Pro Wrestling was going in the right direction with the choices that they made. But commentating, stop being an activist. Stop trying to insert woke stuff, feminism stuff, because feminism has caused the decline of what we're seeing in American society right now. Japan does not need that. Japan has their liberals, which are American citizens that decided to go over and wanted to change the culture of Japan, because these people don't give a shit about anything other than themselves, and they don't respect other people's cultures. And Japan does have an uptick of everything else. And it's okay to have respect and tolerance for LGBT people, because the T and the Q just totally mess things up when everybody else just wants to be accepted and wants to be a human being. But you have people that will talk for you when no one gave them permission to talk for you. No one should be talking for you unless it is absolutely 100% necessary. But if people can talk for themselves and tell you exactly what they want, it is not your job to shush someone when they're trying to tell you their experience just for you to say some type of ridiculous experience that never fucking happened, and it's all made up in your head and it's a fantasy. You, as a visitor in Japan, doing a service in Japan and getting paid on Japanese dollar, the yen, even though it converts to the United States, you are essentially a guest in Japan. So you act as a guest. And you be very courteous as a guest. You do not bring any of the wild ideologies over to Japan to try to infiltrate other people's minds and try to infiltrate the commentary desk. I personally think that Japan is definitely on slow mode when it comes to relationships, dating, sexuality, other things. I totally get it. They are very slow when it comes to that. Sometimes when it comes to technology, from the videos that I watch on YouTube and the information that I gather, some stuff is very slow. Japan has a certain way of doing things throughout the ages, and Japan has been conquered by many different people, and then Japan has also went through a series of different emperors that will allow them, depending on the era, either they can eat this or they can't eat that, or they're going to be a Christian faith base, or they're going to be a Buddhist faith base. Many emperors across the ages of Japan have totally changed Japan into whatever image that they want. It is not right for an American to go over to Japan and be like, you have to have a fluid sexuality. You have to have this insane ideology. You have to make sure that women are the spotlight on everything and fuck men, because men in American culture, for some reason, with these new age women, they think that men ain't shit, but men did everything for us and even allowed us to have a little slice, a little pedestal right next to them when it comes to sports, when it comes to doing the jobs that they want to do the jobs with them. The men decided to move over and be like, hey, this is your spot. You can have this spot. You can have this space. You can have this time. Men did a lot of pushing themselves to the side so that way the women can feel equal. But the women want to feel equal and have their cake and eat it too. And then they don't see a problem with this, and then they don't want to have accountability for it. So all I'm saying is that respect other people's cultures. Don't try to go in there and try to paint a narrative, especially during the women's match of Syuri versus Saya. Syuri versus Saya. I probably said their names wrong. And this was a women's take-all match for the IWGP Women's Championship title and the Strong Women's title. And the only reason why we have an IWGP Women's Champion is because of the SJWs, the social justice warriors, the females who talk a lot of shit, who say the most loudest things in the room, but they never fucking follow it up, and they never continue to follow up what they say. So, like I said, the IWGP Women's Championship title was created because everybody was pressuring New Japan Pro Wrestling, from the Americas to the UK to even probably some people in Japan, because I know there's woke people in Japan as well too. All those people, all those women that are like, women everything, when women are the most toxic people that can backstab you at any point in time. And I say that from personal experience. This is why I have such a very, very minimal, not too big, not even like, I don't even have that many female friends, because I know that they're going to stab me in the back one day. So I'd rather be friends with males, because I could at least be logical with men. But women, oh no, women are the most cattiest people on the planet. Anyway, this is not about getting on the sexes. This is about trying to put a perspective out there and a perception of like, if you go to Japan, respect Japan. Do not try to insert stuff. Anyway, but yeah, so let me just get back to this match for a second, because it bothers me that people cannot think beyond brainwashing and think that women have to be at the center of everything, when that's not really true. You have your moments, you have your opportunities, and then you get a spotlight. You know, why do you need to walk over everyone when there's not really a problem at all? Merit should allow you to get these opportunities and these spotlights. And by the way, those opportunities and spotlights are not the same for everybody else. So I don't know why we need to be competing for the so-called same spot when everybody is different. Everybody has a different story. Everybody has a different mind. Everybody has different goals and ambitions. But for some reason, everybody wants to have the same ideology as everyone else, that like, oh, we're all women, we're all inferior, we got to break through, the men are the worst, all those type of bad things. Like, no, my goals are different from another woman's goals, but for some reason I have to be on the same wavelength, and I have to be like, women power, we're a sisterhood. No. Okay, enough of the rant. Anyway, so in Wrestle Kingdom 20, we had this tag team of a number one contender for the Triple Trios Championship title. And just so you know, Zack Sabre Jr., Hartley, and Oiwa won the Trios NEVER Openweight titles, which no one really cares about. So that's what happened. So Zack Sabre Jr., Hartley, and Oiwa won that in this big-ass Ranbo of a match that should never happen. Okay, women's match. I was saying that the IWGP Women's Championship title was created because of the SJWs, because of the loudest women around the world were telling New Japan Pro Wrestling that they should have a women's division. They were telling people the wrong thing, that Stardom was their women's division. That is not true. And I basically tweeted at people that were saying this wrong information. Like, I was talking on Twitter about this as well back in the day, and correcting the information, because women just want to say whatever the fuck they want to say. And that includes any other Twitter accounts that they just want to say whatever they want to say, and they don't do research. So New Japan Pro Wrestling does not have a women's division. Stardom is not considered their women's division. NJPW is not the same as WWE, where WWE has both sexes, and it's clear that they have a women's division. New Japan Pro Wrestling is not the same as America. Japan separates the sexes. There is nothing wrong by saying that men can only compete with men and women can only compete with women. If you only seen what I've seen on the indies, when a man fights against a woman, sometimes the man forgets how strong they are and can knock out a woman. I saw it happen. I didn't like it, but luckily she was okay. But I remember that vividly. That's why I am like 50-50 on when it comes to the conversation of intergender wrestling. I'm 50-50 on it because sometimes when you're wrestling, you may not know how much force you're putting behind something. So again, it is okay that men wrestle against men and women wrestle against women. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, if you want to do like a mixed tag or something, that's fine. When New Japan Pro Wrestling decided to introduce the idea of the historic crossover between NJPW and Stardom and have the mixed tag matches, I was on board for that. I was like, that's a great concept, a great idea. I love that. Let's go through with that. And that seemed to satisfy a little bit of the appetite of these activists. But these activists were calling for New Japan to make a women's belt because they wanted to feature more women, fuck men. If you got a penis, fuck you. No, well, these people are saying that, the activists are saying that, not me. I appreciate men and what they do for all of us as a society. I don't think that men should be treated the way they have been treated for like no fucking reason. Anyway, so they wanted this. New Japan caved in to give them something that these activists no longer talk about. Where are these activists? Where are these social justice warriors? Because they got it, they don't care about it. They helped get Stardom to make a lot of money by having the increase in subscriptions when they got a subscription to watch more women's wrestling, but it died out because everybody was bored. Everybody wants to jump on a cause and nobody wants to stick with it. And so let me talk about the match and commentary because, again, stop trying to divide the women and the men more and stuff like that. Like, I understand. I don't remember who it was. Most likely it could have been Syuri or maybe Saya, but one of the girls. This is what Walker was saying on commentary, that like one of the girls wants to have Stardom main event the Tokyo Dome, right? And also on commentary, they try to make it seem as if like women are still trying to fight to be seen, that women are still trying to fight for their spot and whatnot. And that like wanting to be a part of New Japan. And it's like New Japan just has men. New Japan doesn't even have a women's roster anymore. They had tried all the way back in the day, but it didn't really get over. So they were like, fuck it, we'll just have all men. But to have women on there where they think that they could probably handle the men is not really a good idea. But I don't know why the women would want to be on the NJPW roster in the first place. I would consider having the Stardom women on the tour when NJPW goes on tour and they have 2 women's matches as special attraction matches. But for women to integrate into the NJPW roster, that's going to cause a lot of problems. And right now, New Japan Pro Wrestling don't need those problems of the sexes. They really don't. So being on the roster, I don't know, because one of the ladies might be like, I could be one of the men. And it's like, no, you can't. You guys are tiny. You guys can't. Also, the other thing, too, is that if these women want to have the spotlight on wrestling in front of a sold out Tokyo Dome by themselves and they're headlining and in Stardom, they're going to have to do it on their own. And they're going to have to find what can make it work to get a sold out crowd of 46,000 fans to go and watch Stardom, and not just because they're women. When you support a human being based on their gender and their sex, because those words are just interchangeable and one is softer than the other, because this is how language evolves, especially when people are doctors and nurses and they have to talk to kids and parents. And it is a little rough to say the word sex in front of a kid who may not understand what that is. So that's why they created the word gender. Just so you know, that's just for historical context there. But when you are just cheerleading someone on, supporting someone on, just based on their gender because they are like you're doing a disservice and you're being a hypocrite if you have to keep on saying that we are the human race, we are human beings, and we need human rights. But if all you're doing is women power, women wrestling only, women should be showcased more on New Japan Pro Wrestling, the men should move over, that's not helping human beings as a whole. If you believe that human beings need rights, human beings need protection, human beings need love, human beings need support, if you have your ideology thinking about human beings as the whole entire race and the concept, but all you're doing is woman everything, woman power, woman this, woman that, you are betraying yourself and the virtual singling that comes with it. Women and men are not powerless. Women and men can achieve everything and anything. So I don't understand why on commentary there needs to be conversations about women this, women that, and make it seem as if like women don't get enough respect, that women don't get everything that they want and under the sun and become princesses and become spoiled. And by the way, the Joshi wrestlers, the women wrestlers work really, really hard and they train with the guys no matter what. They'll have some women there to train with, obviously, just to keep everything even. But essentially, the men are training them to have this fighting spirit, to keep on going. And you still want to say that the women feel all this kind of bullshit when it's like they get trained by the men. The men make sure that they have a very toughness to them. Also, when it comes to Stardom women or just any of the women's wrestling in general, they have people out there on ringside to catch them when they fall. Do we see that with the men on New Japan Pro Wrestling? Do we see that with the men on Pro Wrestling Noah? No, the women that are wrestling are being taken care of by other women to make sure that they don't get hurt. While the women wrestlers are fearless over in Japan, they still need a buffer just in case if anything goes wrong. The men don't need a buffer. And even here in the United States, our men and women who fight in the promotions together don't need a buffer to make sure that they're okay. It's only in Japan with the women. So that definitely tells you a lot. But regardless of that, if Stardom really wanted to sell out the Tokyo Dome, they're going to have to create some really good story, some really good social media, nothing of that feminism bullshit, none of that woke bullshit. Women are powerful on their own. Women are smart and women are capable. And when you can do it on your own with no asterisks, meaning that you're not going to ride the coattails of New Japan Pro Wrestling just because of the name recognition, but yet say fuck men, it's not going to work out. You got to do it on your own. You got to create story. You got to create buzz. You got to create some type of conversation, whether that's online, outside, forums, stuff like that. Get back to grassroots in order to sell out the Tokyo Dome. You know, when Thekla was in Stardom and making a name for herself and doing the hate group and stuff like that and going after the president of Stardom and creating all that chaos, that got people talking. That got people interested. Sometimes you have to think outside the box. Sometimes you got to have a mean streak and really stick true to what you want to do in order to sell those tickets. You have to. It's hard work, but it will be rewarding in the end. But you can't do it on the back of New Japan Pro Wrestling. And New Japan Pro Wrestling is the brother company to Stardom. Stardom is the sister company to New Japan Pro Wrestling. That does not mean that the women get an automatic spot on New Japan Pro Wrestling or even on the roster. You don't want to upset any kind of balance that is already with these rosters intact. So, going back to this match, our winner, which is Syuri, she's the double champion now. She's going to be the Strong Women's Champion and the IWGP Women's Champion, and nobody cares. And I'm being very, very honest. Nobody cares. I don't know anything about these women. Really, I don't. And having those two belts, what does it mean? If New Japan Pro Wrestling is not going to revive New Japan Strong, then what is the point of having the Strong titles? And it's just going to be throwaway matches on the pay-per-view just because of name recognition of New Japan Strong or just name recognition of New Japan Pro Wrestling. What is the point of these titles? What is the point of the IWGP Women's title if you guys don't have a roster, not an integrated roster, because Japan culturally runs on separating the sexes, which again is totally fine. Can you guys please do away with the IWGP Women's Championship title? Please throw it away. The social justice warriors are no longer around. We're not listening to any woke female out there. Those females do not care about your product. They don't. There is absolutely no benefit to being an IWGP Women's Champion and only coming around New Japan Pro Wrestling once every January, once every year, when Wrestle Kingdom is upon us and we're on the road to Wrestle Kingdom, and all of a sudden they're like, oh shit, we have a sister company. We have women titles. We need to put them on the card. These titles have become an afterthought thanks to all the activists. This is why I can't get behind any person that's an activist. I can't get behind any brainwashed woman because they want to hear their own narrative rather than being like, hey, is this good for the company? Hey, is this a good idea for the wrestlers? And they don't give a shit. Just because they're a woman, they're going to be like, yeah, it is. During this match, we had wrestling, we had a snapmare to Saya, a wrist lock, a headlock, a standoff, an armbar, rope break, kicks, pin, Saya kicks out. They used the referee at one point as a shield, a big drop kick, big crossbody, strike, suplex, Norton Lights, submission, Blue Thunder Bomb, Star Crusher, kick out, another kick out, and then a Poison Rana kick out, a big boot, and Syuri with the roundhouse. And I believe that put her away. I don't remember what I put out as the finisher of the match, but I believe the roundhouse kick probably was the finisher of the match, so that way Syuri can win and become double champion. I will say that the opening of the match was just basic wrestling, and I know that there's this weird hole, and I'm going to be very, very honest with you. Not all women's wrestling is the cream of the crop. There are few and far between, and I know women are going to get upset at me and whatnot. I don't care. But for the betterment of women's wrestling, there just needs to be some changes if you want to be on par with the men without having any kind of prefix to it. For example, equity. But yeah, women should not have a prefix in front of their name in order to soften the blows or soften the constructive criticism. And this match between these two women were very soft, was very safe, especially in the beginning opening of the match of like the headlock, the wrist lock, the wrestling. They wanted to show that they can wrestle. And I've said this before when I was doing a stand-in, for talking about WWE Evolve with Dose Evil and Wrestling Soup and just filling in. And when I was watching the shows, what WWE Evolve does very, very well with the women, and depending on who is the producer of the matches for the women matches, what they do very well is that each women's match has something different, a different flavor. You know, I'm not against women who want to start the match with a collar and elbow tie up into a wrist lock, into a hammer lock, into a snapmare, and then back into a headlock. They get back up to a vertical base and they shoot off into the ropes and they shoot off again. And somebody does a shoulder tackle, you know, the basics that we all see that the men do. I have no problem if any women wrestlers that do that. I don't have a problem with that. That's fine. Show us that you can do that. However, depending on the buildup of your matches, make them a little bit different. If you know that the female opponent that you're going after, that you don't like her, and in all the promos you're like, fuck this bitch is horrible, she had me lose, she cheated, don't you guys see that she cheated, I'm the one in the right, she's the one in the wrong. If you have to make it feel like it's a bloodbath, like it's bad blood, start your match off with either attacking her from behind, being aggressive, being urgent with it, and that will help fans get into the match. But if you're saying all this stuff in your promos about how you're angry at her and she cheated and this and that, and you start off with a collar and elbow tie-up, you lose everything. You really do. You lose everything. So I'm just saying that, like, the Stardom women have a lot of different ranges when it comes to their fighting and technical ability. I will always put over Starlight Kid as being one of the best Joshi wrestlers that I've seen, and she's one of my favorites. I do not keep up with Stardom as I used to, but just regardless of watching the women wrestle on Wrestle Kingdom, for some reason they just wanted to be safe, and then later on they will sort of ramp it up. But I'm very concerned because these ladies are very small. These ladies are very tiny, and you do need muscle for this. You need muscle for that. And sometimes it's like you have to know what you're capable of, and you have to know sometimes your limit. While we say the sky's the limit, you also have to be wary of you as a person and what you're capable of doing, because we're not saying that the sky's the limit. You could do whatever you want. Sometimes you might have a cap on you, but that doesn't mean that you can't find something extraordinary on a different path if the other path is already capped off as a woman wrestler. This is why sometimes, maybe depending on the conversation, that for women's wrestling it is I think it's both for men and women's wrestling, that anybody can go into any kind of avenue in professional wrestling if they happen to hit a ceiling. If they happen to be limited, there is always different things they could do within professional wrestling. It does not mean that if you are a woman getting into professional wrestling that you automatically have to go fight a guy just to prove yourself. No. Or if you get into professional wrestling as a woman and you think very selfishly that the spotlight should always be on you don't belong, because wrestling is a team effort. Wrestling is a team sport. This is like trying to go on a football team as a woman and you're going into the male's locker room and you're being like, I own this bitch now. No, you don't. You're going to get kicked the fuck out, because everything that we do sports-wise has a discipline, has a structure. And the moment that you feel that you are above the structure for whatever fucking stupid ass brainwashing reason, you lost. You don't need to be here. You're not going to be adaptable, and you're only going to hinder the success of everybody else. Because I'll tell you this, while wrestling has its ups and downs, its carny moments, its darkest moments, its positive moments, everything. I'm not saying that professional wrestling is perfect. Professional wrestling will never be perfect, the same way that life is never going to be perfect. But this whole tit for tat thing and this whole selfish shit gotta go, because the moment that you break down something that already has stuff in place, it's going to get chaotic, and you're not going to understand the beauty behind the madness. Now, again, I should also say this too, that if you as a female go out looking for all the bad things, you are going to find all of the bad things. And the reason why this is going to be jumping all over the place and it might seem very generalized and not really too much on the wrestling and the New Japan stuff is because once we stop thinking about women's wrestling in terms of feminism, in terms of woke bullshit, in terms of selfishness, then we can focus on the match at hand. Then we can focus on how do we evolve together. Even if it takes longer than what it should, at least there are progress that we can easily see and we can write it down. For some reason, people don't want to do research. For some reason, people don't want to give a shit. They want to hear what they want to hear. And this is not what the Square Circle podcast is about. This is not about me telling you what you want to hear, because then you're not going to grow. And it's the same vicious cycle that we're never going to get away from. But you'll have the balls to say, how come wrestling isn't evolving? Because you are not evolving your mind. And by the way, this isn't to discourage any kind of woman out there that wants to get into wrestling. This isn't saying that you don't have a chance. Everybody has a chance. Everybody has an opportunity. Your opportunities look different from mine, and mine look different from yours. No one is saying that you can't do what you want to do, but you can do it within reason. You don't have to step over people. You don't have to say that this is my spotlight. The men didn't do anything. I should be the main event, not the men. I have so much matches under my belt. I did so many things. I have so much equity. I need to be in the main event. No, we shouldn't be doing that. We shouldn't be encouraging that, because we really don't do that with the men. Somebody out there might say that the men get whatever they want. The men could do whatever they want, blah, blah, blah. Again, this is not a tit for tat kind of thing. If you are able to sell tickets, if you are able to entertain the crowd, if you are the most interesting conversation around, that's why you get the opportunities, because people take notice. Unfortunately, with the internet and the algorithm, you got to play to the algorithm. And if it comes off as everything is about me, and materialistic and not trying to be a team player, then the coincidence of looking like, feeling like, perception-wise, perspective-wise, all of that is going to be that coincidence of it is harder for you. And you're going to go on social media and be like, women have to work 10 times as harder as their male counterparts in wrestling. Things happen, people happen, emotions happen. You know, there's just things that people don't want to deal with. There's things that people don't want to be liable for. You have to understand situations if you're going to be in professional wrestling. There is a conversation to be had about things that may make other people feel uncomfortable, especially when it's very pushy, depending on what it is. But if you're just going to say that women have to work 10 times as harder in wrestling than their male counterparts, then you're not paying attention, because that's not really happening. Women are still getting the spots. Women are still getting the TV time. Women are allowed to do OnlyFans while they're doing wrestling, and you're saying that women have to work 10 times as harder? The women who decide to become OnlyFans models don't have to take a bump, and they make more money. But they still go to wrestling because, I guess, for the love of the game, like, I don't know, to get more subs. But that's a very interesting comparison that I just threw out there with the OnlyFans models. But you get it. It's just this idea of women are every single buzzword, but women have more opportunity avenues than men, but will say that they have to work harder than men, when it's like, what are you talking about? You guys can do anything you want, and no accountability is held to you guys. But the moment that a guy says a stupid ass joke, you're like, hold him accountable. This is why I don't want this bullshit in wrestling. This is why I don't want this bullshit on commentary. And again, if this makes me public enemy number one, it makes me public enemy number one. I'm going to talk about it because no one else wants to talk about it. Everyone wants to be like, oh my God, commentary is great. Oh my God, I like this match. Hey guys, listen. Listen, guys, 2 women are wrestling. They're the best. When I'm like, it could be better. It can be better. All this stuff could be better. All this stuff could be improved. But again, I just don't like this idea that as a woman, I have to feel like a victim, or I have to be a part of the sisterhood to be like, yep, another guy has taken my spot, so I have to work harder because another guy took my spot. No. No. Why can't women have their own individuality and just think for themselves and do what they want to do and love what they want to do without any kind of judgment, without any kind of, hey, we have to be in this together? You know, I wish that for New Japan Pro Wrestling that they will add some Stardom women just to be on the tour and have maybe 2 matches on the card whenever they're touring and stuff. But then again, you also have to think of time constraints too, because they rent out the venues. The venues are only open for a certain time. So maybe they have a 2-hour limit and they have to make sure they feature everybody, including the men who are in every single storyline you could think of for New Japan Pro Wrestling. And then if you add women, now you have to ask the venue for maybe 2.5 hours, 3.5 hours. And that's extra money. And that's extra time that the wrestling fans need to be there. So this is why sometimes, as much as I want some of the Stardom members to travel with the New Japan guys for the tours and stuff like that, you got to think about the optics. You got to think about the money. You got to think about the venue. You got to think about the policies in place in Japan, because it's not like America. But what wrestling fan is going to concern themselves with that when all they want to do is yell, bitch, complain, and moan that women are having the hardest time of their life and that they should be with the men and that Japan should do what America does? Like all this stuff, like what wrestling fan is going to concern themselves with understanding big picture thought process? It is easy to say feature more women. It is easy to say, put the women in the main event. It is 100% easy to say those phrases. But if you as a wrestling fan are not going to do any kind of research into what it takes to run a business, what it takes to run storylines, and what's best for the overall outcome, if you're not going to do that kind of research, please stop trying to say women have it harder, women need to be in a main event, women need this, women need that, women need everything, they can't do anything on their own, they are lesser than men because men think of them as lesser, blah, blah, blah. All this fucking bullshit feminism needs to go. If you're not going to think about where they're going to fit in, then you don't understand the business, because you can't just throw some random main event together of 2 women that just started with the company and they're going to be main eventing. That's not what people paid for. That's not what people went to go see. People went to go see the main event of the main storyline they have been following. If you're going to just throw in 2 women wrestlers for the hell of it, then you're just pandering, because they should be getting to the main event respectfully, on their own merit, on their own storytelling ability, on their promos, on their character work, on everything that makes the story very, very interesting for people to be like, yes, let's have them in the main event. But if you're just putting them there for brownie points and virtue signaling, get out. So just to recap, if you are working within Japan and you are a United States citizen, please respect Japan and their culture. Do not become an activist on commentary. Make sure to follow the storylines and talk about the story, and maybe give some oomph to how Stardom and the Stardom ladies can fill out the Tokyo Dome. It is all based on merit. It is all based on word of mouth. It is all based on interesting things because people love the entertainment and stuff like that. It is not based upon gender to get a sold out crowd for New Japan Pro Wrestling and for the Tokyo Dome. People go for the entertainment. I know that's shocking. People go for the entertainment regardless of gender and sex. People go to escape. People do not go, oh my God, women, oh my God, let me go. You know, like, No, normal people are like, oh shit, I've been wanting to see this show for a while. Let me go watch it. Oh shit, we have sumo wrestling. Oh shit, we got basketball. People go for the entertainment over your fucking gender and sex. Also, to recap, Zack Sabre Jr., Hartley, and Oiwa won those trios never openweight championship titles. Again, no one gives a shit about those titles. And it was such a mess of a beginning match to open up Wrestle Kingdom that I'm not even going to go over it. And Syuri and Saya, I don't really know what's happening with them and the lead up to having this match and this winner take all stuff. And I haven't been following who's been the IWGP Women's Champion or the Strong Women's Champion, because New Japan does not put an emphasis on these titles. And I truly believe that these titles need to be retired, and they should be retired. Or if not, basically give them new life, give them new purpose. But in order for that to happen, New Japan Pro Wrestling needs to bring back New Japan Strong. And I think by bringing back New Japan Strong, it will definitely save the company. And if they get rid of AEW, they will 100% save the company. And the last thing that I want to say is that, again, none of this is personal. It may feel personal. It's just frustrations that me as a woman have to be reading other tweets or just listening to other women. And it's just brainwash after brainwash after brainwash. And when you have a young man in the business, in the biggest position of his career, to be a commentator for New Japan Pro Wrestling, to still try to push brainwash women bullshit, it's like, we don't need that here. All women are not the same. We think differently. We have different ambitions, different goals. And if the mission for Stardom is to headline the Tokyo Dome and sell out the Tokyo Dome, they got to do it more than just based on their gender and based on how sexy they are. They have to do it through story, through planning, and trying their best to sell it out. They could try this year with some really good storytelling and work their way up to a road to their own sort of Wrestle Kingdom Tokyo Dome thing. And even if they don't get 46,000 people, for them, if they get 25,000 people, 24,000 people, 15,000 people, I will praise them, because they did it on their own without an asterisk. They did it on their own without feeling the weight of the world of that because they're a woman, they are lesser than, and that men don't see them as the same, or whatever fucking bullshit that they are thinking of or who they're around. Because like I said, women are capable. Women are smart. Women can figure out something. Women can figure out things that men can't really do, because again, we're two different species, but we do need each other to become a complete unit together. We are stronger together. But if the goal of Stardom is to sell out the Tokyo Dome, or at least headline the Tokyo Dome, they could find very innovative ways to do so to get the word out. I would rather be a supporter for that to happen in a very innovative way, rather than just being, hey, I'm a female, they're a female, I'm going to help them out because they're just a female. And I don't want to do that. I never want to do that. I don't want to support another female just because we're the same gender. That's stupid. We support each other because we have the same ambition. We support each other because we have the same goals. This is why I don't want no one on commentary to be an activist and try to have a conversation with somebody else that's just going to agree and just add on really nothing to this woman power bullshit. No, it is a team effort. It's everybody. It doesn't matter if you're a man, woman, whatever the hell. You guys have a goal, an ambition, and you guys got to find ways to go and do that. That's the whole point of this podcast that I think I ranted on a little too long. But again, these frustrations build because no matter what I say, Nobody else is changing their mind. No one else is changing their tune. We are working against the other side of the wrestling community bubble that really want to be selfish, that really want to do no research and think that women have had it bad for so long, when it's like, no, you got to go back and do research for all the years. And yeah, it's going to be uncomfortable, but we made a lot of progress. Me as a woman, I'm able to have a podcast that you guys are able to listen to. There are other women out there that have a podcast for good and bad things. And people listen to women who have a podcast. People listen to different voices that are women. So who is holding us back again? Are there men that are currently trying to stop all the women from having podcasts? Are there men trying to stop all the women from having OnlyFans accounts? Are there men trying to stop women from doing whatever the hell women want to do? You know, you got to think about it. If you're a woman that made it this far into the podcast, that they say that people are holding the women down. Women are marginalized. Women are this, women are that. And they always blame the men. But the question to flip on them is, are these men doing this to you currently right now? No, they're not. Men are trying to live their life. Men are trying to build a family. Men are trying to keep us safe. Women are trying to be chaotic and being stupid, but yet then will say that they are the most held down group ever. And the young people today don't ever want to do research or even look at it from a very objective standpoint, to where it's like none of the shit that feminism is introducing is happening. Women have more rights than ever. Women have more opportunity than ever. Women have more goals than ever. Women could do it all. But no, they still want to keep you in this brainwashed loop of fucking bullshit. Again, this is why I do not want any kind of activist to flow through the airwaves of commentary, because no one's going to question it. I'm going to question it. I'm going to talk about it, because I hate that we are in this loop, this never-ending loop. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you learned something, took something from this, understood something, maybe had some eye-opening thoughts. Leave your comments down below. This will stay the way that it is. Again, Zack Sabre Jr., Hartley, Oiwa won those trios NEVER Openweight championship titles, and Syuri is your double champion of the IWGP Women's Championship and the Strong Women's title. And if it feels like I'm anti-woman, I am not. I'm just anti-ideology that is so fucking stupid, that has kept women down and being ridiculous about things. And then the moment you're like, hey, you got to break through that, nobody wants to. I understand that the unknown is very, very uncomfortable. I totally get it. But we got to start talking about these things and making people more aware of, you are capable. You are in good hands. Nothing is truly against you unless you want to go out there and look for something to be against you. When you don't look for something, it's not going to happen, and it's not happening. Okay? Ladies and gentlemen, you have been listening to an episode of the Square Circle Podcast. I'm your host, Marie Shadows, and I'll see you guys on the next one.